My name is Christian Mehta, and I'm a member of the Carnegie Council. I love the Council because of the opportunity it provides me to be exposed to thinkers and leaders from around the world and to broaden my perspective. But we need your help. To ensure the future of programs such as these, please support the Council's fund drive. Visit carnegiecouncil.org and click Donate/Join. Thank you.
How did you interact with Mr. Bakatin in reorganizing the KGB?
Mr. Bakatin served only 3 or 4 months. His time was very short, and he left KGB in the end of '91. At that time, of course, it was a lot of different decisions, from changing the structure of agent staff, yes, because agent staff was was formed for very strange purposes from normal point of view. For example, to know what about composers of Russia think, what about the actors of Russian theaters think. Of course, nobody meets in normal society about it. So we had to reorganize this agent staff. We had to change the main dimensions, directions of our work. For example, it was one of the first days of my position, my new position, and I've got a draft of order about the anti-terrorist operations in the cases when the aircraft are kept by the terrorists. And I've read the first words of this draft, that the goal of the operation is to prevent jet to leave the territory of Soviet Union. I took my pen, I crossed those words and wrote, the goal of operation is to save the lives of passengers and crew. And it changed technology a lot. By the way, our operation, anti-terrorist operation in September of '94 in Makhachkala, put an end to the terrorist attempts to get planes in Russia.
Yeah.
No other attempts from that time on. So we changed a lot because we had to focus new goals. We had to limit our purposes and so on. So on. It was, and at the same time, we had to make people working in the system more quiet, not to be nervous, to be concentrated on their formal obligations and so on.
So it wasn't just that. It wasn't just the tactical questions of anti-terrorist operations. It was the whole culture of the organization that you wanted to change.
Yes.
Yeah. And you feel that was achieved.
I like to remember one very short dialogue of that time. Of course, I came to new structure. I couldn't even imagine what it was. And I started to go from one department to another to understand what are they doing, what are their goals, and what are their results, by the way. And first of them was the department of the intelligence department. And one of the officers asked me, do you understand, Mr. Savostiyanov, that you only had to завоевать наше доверие, добиться наше доверие, заслужить наше доверие. А?
Credibility.
So he told me, do you understand that you only start your work, you have to get our credibility? And I replied, I am the chief. You had to get my credibility, on the contrary.
Well, I was going to ask how these people responded when you came in as the new broom, as it were, but I think you've answered the question. It was
For them, it was a tragedy, of course. It was a tragedy because at that time, at the same time, the people, upper officers who participated in coup were resigned and were under the survey, and they didn't understand what will happen with them. Democrats came. Using the tradition of communist revolution, we had to put every officer of KGB in prison and so on and so on. And they thought it may happen in reality. So it had, I spent, I think, 3 or 4 months to make people understand that if they will accept new values of new country, of new state, they can work with no problems.
And what percentage, roughly, of the people
I think
accepted the new order, as it were?
I think at that time it was, from my point of view, it was up to 80%.
Yes. Interesting.
But you know, in reality, KGB officers of that time understood everything much better than people from the street. And they understood all the weakness of communist regime, and that its time passed. So they understood that changes must come. They didn't know what kind of changes must come. By the way, nobody understood. Maybe Deng Xiaoping was the only exception. Yes. But in Soviet Union, nobody understood how to make this transformation. And it was, for them, it was a question: what this man with the beard, what we will do with us? There was some attempts to betray, to play as a communist agent in new democratic KGB. There were such cases. But it took maybe a year, maybe a year and a half to make the station absolutely controlled.